Hello everyone, my name is Chuck and I'm the Book Dweller. This is my first episode on my BookTube channel. Just to give you an idea of what the channel is going to be about. I'm looking around the library here and you can't see it all, and soon we'll do a tour. I have about 4,000 books and I've been kind of goofing off around BookTube for about a month now. I thought, you know what, it's about time that I shared some of my books with the whole world. So that's kind of the premise of the channel. Of course, I have January's book haul lined up in the other room. I've already started on February's book haul. So there'll be plenty of time for the book hauls in the near future. And occasionally I'll do a book review of some of the books I'm reading. Occasionally I'll have friends on who come on and show their books. So I really want to make it fun and interactive. I hope everyone takes the time to subscribe and puts in comments. I'm also a publisher, so I'm going to put in links for the publishing that we do here. I'm going to have a Facebook channel and Instagram. So I'm going to put all those links in the bottom. Like I say, this is my first shot at it, so I'll try to do the lighting good and the sound all good. So, and I'll learn all that stuff as I go along. So what I've done is I've gone around the library here and I've picked 2 books from favorite writers and whatnot. And as you can see, I'm a big music fan, so I think I'll show a CD or an album or a cassette or sometimes even 8 tracks. So I want to just cover all the books that I have, all the different genres and subgenres and all that other stuff. So I think what we'll do is let's jump into it right now. So first up is Joe by Larry Brown. This was also made into a movie starring Nicolas Cage. One of the better Nicolas Cage movies. Well, you don't say that very often. Also by Larry Brown, Father and Son. Larry Brown's one of my favorite Southern writers, and you'll see many of those as we go. So let's keep it rocking. Jack London is going to appear on this channel. This is Adventure on Adventure. Nice little hardback, pretty cool. Next Jack London is South Sea Tales. Read a couple out of that. London, pretty cool guy. Next, Thomas Jefferson, Author of America by Christopher Hitchens. Here's one of my favorite Hitchens books that he edited, The Portable Atheist. All different essays on atheism. Very cool, very informative. Next up, we'll be doing maybe a multi-episode about this guy. The Cave Girl, Edgar Rice Burroughs. Also by Burroughs, At the Earth's Core. Like I said, I have tons of Edgar Rice Burroughs books, and we'll definitely get to them. Here's a shift. Go into the professional wrestling realm. This is a book about Bruiser Brody. Frank Goodish. Heck of a life. Unfortunate ending. Next, In the Pit with Piper. Roddy Piper's book. One of my all-time favorites, Roddy Piper. Now sneak into the horror realm. Creakers by Edward Lee. I have a bunch of his books too. We'll get to all those. Sorry about the glare. I'll get better with that as we go. And Succubi by Edward Lee. Edward Lee is one of those unique writers that, let's just say hardcore horror. Next we have Poems by James Dickey. And of course, the proverbial favorite, Deliverance with James Dickey. What a movie, what a book, holy cow. Classic. All right, a little bit of dark fantasy going here. Death Angel Shadows, Carl Edward Wagner. Yeah, pretty cool. And one that people my age should get, Dark Crusade. Does anybody remember the Molly Hatchet cover? That's a character named Cain. That's where that all started from. Cain was definitely flirting with disaster, if you know what I mean. All right, next up, another favorite of mine, The Log from the Sea of Cortez by John Steinbeck. And one of my favorites by him, The Winter of Our Discontent. Like I said, we'll definitely get to much more John Steinbeck as we go along. Now, here's a guy it pains me to read because it's painful afterwards. But unfortunately, he's gone now. One of Henry Rollins' favorite writers, Hubert Selby Jr., The Demon. Hubert Selby Jr., The Room. And we'll get to the more well-known Selbys as we go along. Here's another one of my favorite Southern writers, Blood and Grits by Harry Crews. Car by Harry Crews. There again, actually, my wife Betsy and I met Harry Crews when we lived in California. I wasn't that into him at the time, but later on, turns out to be one of my favorites. Here's a couple that are pretty timely because of a show on Netflix that we binge watched the other night. And even after all these years, it doesn't get any easier. And here's one, The Phantom Prince, My Life with Ted Bundy. Still creeps you out after all these years. And these two guys are featured in the documentary. And this is the only living witness. Look at that Ted Bundy face. Just brutal. I still don't think that they figured out how many people he killed. So probably don't want to know. All right, so I thought I'd grab a couple anthologies off the shelves there. This is Mask, edited by J.N. Williamson. I don't know if you can see the names on there. And this is Urban Horrors, which has Ray Bradbury, Richard Matheson, the whole cast of characters. This is absolute fantastic anthology. Let's jump back into the horror realm. This is going to be obviously one of the all-time favorites for me, and we'll definitely go into depth about him because I got a chance to meet him when we lived in California. But this is Savage by Richard Lehman. About Jack the Ripper. Not going to give away too much right now, but we'll go into the books later on. And this is Blood Games by Richard Lehman. Lehman, one of the all-time favorite horror writers of mine. And just writers in general. What a sweetheart of a guy, too. So next we have another one of my favorites. Bill Kreider, Evil at the Root. It's about his Dan Rhodes sheriff character. Lighthearted, mystery, fun, cool. And here's one of his westerns, A Time for Hanging. This is actually a large print book. Pretty cool. That one's a little bit harder to find. All right. Here's another favorite. Probably goes without explaining. Charles Bukowski, The Most Beautiful Woman in Town. Picked that up recently, actually. And Love is a Dog from Hell. So I don't always consider Bukowski a poet. I guess I should, but I just, the little snippets he does talk about life and his life in particular. So take that for what it's worth. Now, here's a guy that I'm friends with on Facebook. Cool guy. Been around for a while, but he's really taken off here lately, and this is actually one of the last books I read. It's The Tent by Keelan Patrick Burke. Good stuff, small. And here's Sour Candy by Keelan Patrick Burke. So we'll cover some more of his. I got a stack of his over there to get through, too. Here's some just a little fun stuff here. I've got a shelf over there of just weird oddities and stuff I picked up over the years. Here's book number 1 of that, Charlie's Angels. You don't see that too often. And not to leave out Farrah Fawcett. And yes, I did have the poster when I was a kid. And yes, I'm still a kid. And yes, I still wish I had the poster. So there, take that for what it's worth. Let's go into a little bit of a deeper subject here. Magic in Theory and Practice by Aleister Crowley. Aleister, you call him what you want. This is a great book. And this one here is really hard to find. The Vision and the Voice by Aleister Crowley or whatever you want to call him. Good, deep stuff there. Now let's get into one of my favorite writers. I actually was going, when we lived in California, I was going to meet Carl Weber Wagner and this next guy at a convention coming up, but unfortunately they both passed away around the same time. That would have been great, but here's Out of the Mouth of Graves by Robert Bloch. And believe me, there's a lot more Bloch where that came from. So we'll get to all those. And this is a 3-novel anthology called Screams by Robert Bloch. That one's getting to be hard to find too. Ton of paperbacks by Bloch. That's another, maybe a multi-episode one. Here's another one of my all-time favorites. I've been reading him for years. Never got a chance to meet him either. The Shrinking Man by Richard Matheson. Old hardback. Very cool. Great movie too. And of course the proverbial I Am Legend, which is the Will Smith movie I never bothered seeing. But Richard Matheson, classic writer. I don't care what genre you like. A couple more hardbacks. Here's one of the troublemakers of the world. Unfortunately, he passed away recently, but this is Approaching Oblivion by Harlan Ellison. And we also have Deathbird Stories by Harlan Ellison. There again, got a ton over there. That'll be totally different episodes as we go too. While we're talking about classics, Mark Twain, A Tramp Abroad, and Mark Twain on the Damned Human Race. Ton of Mark Twain books. We'll get to those as we go along too. Sneak back into the horror realm for a minute. These are pretty cool editions by this guy, H.P. Lovecraft, The Horror in the Museum. Nice. And another one of those hardbacks in that series, The Dunwich Horrors and Others. So I have a ton of paperbacks by Lovecraft. There again, we'll get to them. Moving on to probably my favorite writer of the last 20 years or so. Ton of his books too. What can I say about him? Joe R. Lansdale, Cold in July. Actually, the movie was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And The Bottoms by Joe R. Lansdale. Obviously, that's a whole episode or two coming up. Let's jump into the political realm for a second. Jesse Ventura, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed. One of my favorite books. And another one by Jesse, Don't Start the Revolution Without Me. I just love Jesse Ventura. So, give you an idea of my politics, I'd vote for him for president. Speaking of presidents, let's go back a few steps. One of my favorite presidents, I guess you could say, because even though he was all for freedom and all for all this other stuff, he did have slaves. So, the hypocrisy of presidency is not a new thing. Thomas Jefferson, Word for Word. And The Public and Private Papers of Thomas Jefferson. There again, I'm looking up at my history. Got a whole big, huge history section we'll cover as we go along, too. Actually, I have the next two are signed. Let me see if I can turn these around and show you the signatures without tearing them up. There's one, The Bridge by John Skip and Craig Spector. Met them in Berkeley when we lived in California. And The Light at the End of a Tunnel, vampire book. There again. If you can see that pretty good. Signed. Cool guys. They were at Poppy Z. Bright was actually there that night too. Fantastic. We're coming up on some of my favorites. So Ed Gorman passed away a while ago. I didn't realize it, but this is Black River Falls by Ed Gorman. And I read this recently too, The Poker Club by Ed Gorman. Quick story about Ed Gorman, and we'll get to right here all his books over here too. When I lived in California, I actually called him on the phone when we first got computers, and his wife answered, and I was like, "Can I speak to Ed, please?" She's like, "Sure, who is this?" I said, "Oh, this is Chuck." "Oh, hey, Ed, guy named Chuck wants to talk to you." He gets on, "Why, what do you want?" I said, "Hey, just want to tell you I'm a big fan of yours." "Oh, okay, great, thanks." I said, I appreciate everything you do. He goes, "All right, buddy, thanks for calling. Take care." Well, not many people said they talked to Ed Gorman. on the phone, no less. Looks like coming up another guy who passed away recently, one of the all-time greats of the horror genre. This is The Crossings by Jack Ketchum. And I'll get better with this glare, you guys, and my lighting and everything. So we'll keep on going. The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum. Wow, what a book! That one took me a long time to get over. That was oof. Here's a guy I'm buddies with on Facebook. Great guy. Been reading him for 20 years at least. Trade Secrets by Ray Garton. Ray's out there. He's easy to talk to. What a great guy. And here's a pretty special edition of this one. Crucifix Autumn by Ray Garton. This edition is very hard to find. We're winding it down here. All right, here's another one of my favorites. Been following him. Actually got my picture taken with him at a horror convention. If I can find it somewhere around here, I'll show it eventually. Clive Barker, The Great and Secret Show. That's a beast to read too. And this one is the first 3 books of the Books of Blood, all in one volume. It's pretty cool. Now we're down to two of my all-time favorites. I guess I don't have to say much about these. Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut Jr. on this one. And Mother Night by Kurt Vonnegut Jr. I believe I have every Kurt Vonnegut book over there, but there again, that'll be a whole nother. Now, my all-time favorite writer, I got a chance to meet him and sit in on a little instruction he gave. He did a talk. It's been quite a while ago, but he's gone now. But he will always be one of my heroes. I can't say that I have had or will have a lot of heroes in my life, but this has always been my go-to guy, and it's The Zen Reader by Howard Zinn. That's a biggie. And one of my second favorite books of all time, this is Voices of the People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. Wow. What a butt kicker that one is. And seeing as I'm wearing a Testament shirt, I figured I'd show a couple Testament CDs. Dark Roots of Earth by Testament. Awesome. And their latest one, Brotherhood of the Snake. Got a chance to see Testament on the Final Slayer tour. So that's it for right now. Give you an idea of the books are all over the place, every genre, everything you can think of. I've got a lot to show. So for my first episode, I just want to give you a preview. If you think this might be something you might dig, please subscribe. Feel free to leave comments, and we'll just keep it going, try to get it better as we go. That's it for now. Thanks, everybody. I'm the Book Dweller, and I'll talk to you later. Take care.